In 1941, the T-34 changed the balance of armored warfare. Germany had to respond fast. What followed was an escalation. Bigger guns, thicker armor, heavier tanks, and eventually, the birth of the modern main battle tank. 1941. While Germany adapts existing designs, the Soviet Union is still using pre-war concepts. Both tanks are designed for infantry support rather than tank hunting. Short-barreled guns emphasize high explosive firepower over penetration. Conclusion: mobile artillery concepts at the dawn of total war. The T-50 is often called too good a light tank for its time. Advanced in design, with good protection and a diesel engine. The problem is that it turned out to be complex and expensive for wartime, so only a very small number were produced. This is an example of how war forces a choice between simplicity and mass production. Why there is no comparison? There is no direct German analog in terms of role and scale of production. Priorities and lines of development diverged. The T-70's 45mm gun gives it a decisive advantage over the Panzer II's 20mm cannon. The Panzer II survives only in secondary roles. Conclusion: the end of the Panzer II as a frontline tank. The long-barreled 75mm gun transforms the Panzer IV into a serious tank killer. The T-34 maintains its advantages in armor shape, mobility, and mass production. Conclusion: quality firepower versus resilient design and numbers. Tiger I dominates long-range combat with its 88mm gun and thick armor. The KV-1 relies on brute protection and simpler maintenance. Conclusion: elite precision versus rugged endurance. The KV-85 was a transitional vehicle. It had the hull of the KV-1S and a new turret, with an 85mm gun. It was produced as a quick response to the strengthening of German heavy tanks, while the IS series was being rolled out. Due to its transitional nature, production was limited, but it is important as a bridge from the KV to the IS. Why no comparison? In your structure, it is an independent transitional episode, not the main representative of the class. The Panzer IV reaches its peak with improved armor and the long 75mm gun. The T-34 emphasizes mass production and repairability. Conclusion: refined platform versus industrial momentum. KV-1S sacrifices armor for speed, while Tiger remains a heavy duelist. Conclusion: mobility trade-offs versus dominance at range. IS-1 marks the transition to a new Soviet heavy tank generation. Tiger still holds the edge in gun performance. Conclusion: mature German design versus Soviet evolution. The T-44 is less famous than the T-34, but very important. It introduced solutions that later became popular in the T-54. Torsion bar suspension, a lower silhouette, and a redesigned layout. It appeared too late to be widely used in the war, but became the foundation of the post-war school. Why no comparison? According to your line of comparison, the heroes of the war are the T-34-85 and IS-2, while the T-44 is a technological transition. Panther excels at long-range engagements with strong frontal armor. T-34-85 balances firepower, production, and battlefield flexibility. Conclusion: technical superiority versus operational efficiency. Tiger II represents maximum armor and precision. IS-2 delivers devastating single-shot firepower and simpler production. Conclusion: engineering perfection versus battlefield practicality. The IS-3 is famous for its peaked hull front and new turret. It appeared too late to see action in World War II, but its appearance at the Allied parade in Berlin in 1945 made a strong impression. It was a signal tank. The USSR was demonstrating a new generation of heavy vehicles. Why no comparison? By 1945, Germany no longer had any comparable new tanks in production. The era was over. The T-80 was the final attempt to improve the light branch based on the T-70. The main change was a two-man turret so that the commander would not also be the gunner. But it came too late. By 1945, the focus had shifted to medium tanks, so the series was small. Why no comparison? A late light tank without widespread combat use. There is no direct German counterpart from the same era. The IS-4 was a heavy post-war armored monster, with very thick armor, but at the expense of weight and mobility. Only a small number were produced, many were sent to the Far East, and some were eventually used as stationary firing points. This is an example of how heavy tanks reach their limits. Why no comparison? Post-war Germany has no comparable mass-produced heavy class. Comparing it to an MBT is incorrect in terms of role. The PT-76 is a Cold War amphibious tank. Its key feature is its out-of-the-box amphibious capability. It can cross water without bridges or engineering preparation. It was widely exported and often used in local conflicts, making it one of the most recognizable amphibious tanks in the world. Why there is no comparison? Germany has no direct mass-produced equivalent of a floating tank of this class. The T-10M was the last Soviet heavy tank to be mass-produced. The main distinguishing feature of the M version was a more powerful 122mm gun and improved stabilization, that is, an attempt to make the heavy tank as modern as possible. But times were changing. MBTs were coming onto the scene, and the heavy class was on its way out. Why no comparison? Germany was represented in the Cold War by the Leopard MBT, while the T-10M was a heavy class tank with different tasks and a different logic of application. Leopard 1 prioritizes mobility and fire control over armor. T-55 becomes the most widespread Cold War tank thanks to simplicity. Conclusion: maneuver warfare versus global mass standard. T-62 increases firepower with a 115mm smoothbore gun. Leopard 1 relies on precision and movement. Conclusion: caliber versus tactical flexibility. Leopard 2A4 emphasizes system quality, optics, and crew effectiveness. T-72A focuses on simplicity, autoloading, and mass deployment. Conclusion: refined systems versus rugged standardization. T-80U offers extreme acceleration with its gas turbine and advanced protection. Leopard 2A4 delivers balance, firepower, and platform stability. Conclusion: speed and reaction versus consistency and control. We have come a long way from the first armored boxes to Cold War vehicles. If you want more, in the next video we will do the same format, but for self-propelled guns and tank destroyers. Germany versus the USSR.